Hello, this is Michelle Faust with Lemonade Legend. And in Lemonade Legend, we like to amplify the voice of individuals who experience breakthrough moments. So they're really taking lemons and making them into lemonade opportunities. And so for this past few weeks and continuing forward, we are interviewing co-authors of a collaborative book that has been a labor of love of mine for a few months now, and it's called The Lemonade Stand. From sour to sweet, inspiring women's stories of strength and success. We've got 18, I was going to say 19, but then that's including me, and I can't say how amazing I am. I can only say that we have 18 really amazing, wonderful ladies that are contributing to this story, which will be launching soon. So for today, my guest is Aislinn. I'm sorry, I'm calling you by my little nickname here, Aislinn Ellis. And she's the owner of Ask Assie and Always, her developing business, which is Always Organized, work-based solution for entrepreneurs and small businesses. So she's first of all, welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so happy to be here.
That should be my next statement right after I've introduced you. What I was going to say is she is the, what's the right word? The antithesis, the exact opposite of me. So I'm chaos. She's misorganized.
I like that.
I am the reason people like you exist.
Oh, nice.
So I try to hide from the camera as much as I can because everything else around me is total chaos. My file by piles, which is not an efficient way to do business. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later as we get into some of the work you do. What I'd like to start off with is just a little bit about your involvement in the Lemonade Stand and why you decided to join our team, and just a little snippet of what your story is.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. So, excuse me. So as we know, this is, of course, your baby, and I can't thank you enough for the opportunity and what this has meant to me. When I originally signed on, it was at the kind of like nudge of my friend on Facebook. She did a tag yesterday. I called it a shout out, but she tagged me in the story, and she showed me what it meant when my name keeps showing up in all these notifications. I'm like, what do these mean? She's like, oh, it's because I tagged you in this. I'm like, oh, okay. So I pulled on that thread, and I landed on your landing page and kind of what you were looking for, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I have a story, and I'm open to sharing that and see where the road leads, right? And honey, just the journey alone in writing this piece has been so uplifting and healing, and to know that I'm not alone, and to know that there are 18, including yourself, wonderful, bad women that just own their stuff and just press forward. And that ended up being the name of the chapter of my book, is Press Forward, It'll Be Easier. It'll get easier. You have to keep things moving. And my specific area was in the kind of trust, and people suck. It's the number one thing that is of our generation. I hear it every day. People suck. And what really is behind that saying is that when you get a whole bunch of people together, people as a whole, they suck. But the person-to-person connectivity, the thing that keeps us moving, the thing that allows us to love and trust and grow, that is real. That is the sweet stuff. That is amazing. So without giving too much away, my little takeaway would be if you have to trust to find out. So yes, people suck, people hurt people, and hurt people hurt other people. So, but you have to trust to find out, and to arrive where I am now versus where I was years and years ago, dealing with domestic violence and homelessness, and how my role as an organizer has helped me through that without me even knowing it, helping me survive through those life transitions has just been, I get goosebumps every time I talk about it. And it just, honey, it has healed me and it brought me to a whole other level. And I can't thank you so much for that opportunity. So that's a little bit about me and my little chapter and kind of where I'm speaking from on my heart with this project.
Well, I'm excited to have you as part of the Lemonade crew. You've done a great job, not only in your story, but in helping to really pull the team together, your launch team together. And you're right, this community that's being created within the, the tribe of the Lemonade stand has been pretty amazing. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I never expected that we would have the kind of connection. Just really like if we're a community, we're a tribe. We're there for each other. We support each other, and it's something that now I'm looking at. This is what we need more of in this world. Is really support. I think we went from a time of years ago being very separated. People started moving out of state, moving away from the family unit kind of a thing. And now I think people are trying to realize, or starting to realize that they really need that connection with the community, like-minded people and whatnot. So this has been a great journey. For me to be involved with people like you. So again, I very, very much appreciate that you're a part of it. So I was a little bit joking. I was, but I wasn't, about my chaos. I'm very chaotic in my work structure here, my desk, but I need my home to be organized because I have found, and I'm going to ask you this question as to whether you see this, I have found that if my house is in chaos or if I'm surrounded by chaos, my mind is in chaos.
Absolutely.
I can't get focused. I can't, so I do work very hard on at least keeping my office, at least the rest of my house is somewhat in order because of that. Do you think there's a direct connection?
Oh, absolutely. One of my biggest platforms and one of the strongest beliefs that I have, and actually what has comforted me in the background as I've transitioned through my hardships, is your physical space is 100% a manifestation on what's going on in your mind. So as women who are business owners and family members, and we have it all now, right? We finally got there. We are able to have the family, the career, and the drive, and the support of our loved ones, and we are really at the head of our game. And when we're carrying all of those balls and all of those things in our heads and our hearts and on our bodies and souls, well, they start to manifest physically. Oh, I will get to that. I will get to that. I will get to that. And they start accumulating in piles, and it becomes clutter. And what people don't realize is how when you get through that clutter, you make a concerted effort, you make an appointment with yourself, if you will, to get through that clutter and really handle all those balls that we tend to juggle. And it's such a cathartic release at the end of the process of working with me when we've got everything in its home, because there's that deep sigh and that relief, that healing of not having to carry all of that physical weight on our emotional selves and in our hearts and in our heads. It's 100% related, absolutely. The correlation there has become at the forefront of why my industry is growing so much. Even our economy, and as easily and readily available as things are, it gets out of control really, really fast. Whatever we want, boom, like a genie, it's available at our fingertips, right? All we got to do is click, press, or have it delivered or drop shipped and auto shipped and auto charged. We don't have to deal with this thing called money. As long as we're breathing it in, we can have whatever we want and whatever we need or desire. And if we're not cognitive aware of that, if we're not purposeful with the things that we bring into our lives and that of others. Before we know it, we're surrounded by clutter, and there's a cost to that. There's a true cost to that. And so, it's paramount in everything that I do, because it's 100%. I can often tell and I feel very deeply what a person is struggling with when they allow me into their space, because I see it. I have a different lens, if you will, of which I look through the world, and I can really see behind what's going on with that person, and that's my goal. I could care less about all the stuff you have in your way. It's really healing that part of you that's having the stuff as a symptom, if you would. So, I love it. It's 100%. You're absolutely dead on. So thank you for recognizing that.
I always find, for me, if I have a task at hand, whether it's cleaning out a closet or even, saying it's time for me to get my desk reorganized, that it's the getting started part that really throws me. Like, I just stand there saying, where do I begin? Once I'm into it, then it's a different story, but that's getting started. Do you have any tips on that?
Oh, absolutely. The deer in the headlight looks as you're staring at the pile. You're like, oh, I don't even want to, no, I would rather do 100 things right now than hang up 150 clothes on the floor or pick up something for the 100th time because I seem to have to pick it up every single day. Absolutely. So when you're staring clutter in the face and you're staring disorganization, or, there are 100 ways we could spend our time. And when you're staring at it in the face, my biggest tip on how to get started is, number one, just get started. When you pull on that thread and you're like, when you find a home for one place, then you can find a home for another. And one of the best ways to do that is take the 3,000 from the sky foot view, right? Look from the whole thing. So I look at, when you're coming into your home or your workspace, I look at, what's the first thing you do? How do you catch things at the door as you're coming in? Kind of your in and out cove, right? If you enter to your garage or through your garage, you pull into your garage and your garage is filled with clutter, well, that sets the tone for the rest of the house, because you're like, okay, well, it stops at there, and that could be a pain point, right? Because it doesn't really have anywhere else to live. So if you start with your garage, then, every time you pull in, then that's that motivation, right? That's pulling on the thread a little bit further. Okay, everything in my garage has a home now. We may have shifted some belongings into the actual home. Okay, well, what's next? Well, what's your next stop when you enter your house? The logical progression is usually the best to success, right? So just start somewhere. And if you have to pick one place to start, don't start with the hardest task. Don't start with the place that has the most memorable or the most memories or emotions attached to it. Start with where you start when you enter your home, because it's usually not the hardest. Like the garage, actually in Arizona, the garage is probably in the summer not the best place to start. But at the new year, which we're coming upon absolutely in January, start with your garage, because your car is often your second biggest, largest investment, right? And your garage is not meant for storage. It's not meant to house more stuff. It is meant to house your second biggest purchase and the thing that takes you to all of the things, hopefully safely, right? You want to protect that investment. So 100%, my best advice would be to start with how you enter your home, and just start. I can't say that enough. Just start. I promise you'll get through it. And if all else fails, call an organizer. We are everywhere. So a huge shout out to Marie Kondo for putting the highlight this year on our industry, because we're like little fairies. Nobody knows that we exist, but we do, and we're a huge network, and we're here to help. So just reach out to your nearest professional organizer and just get started. That would be my biggest takeaway.
I'm going to assume, because of the title of your business, that you do focus more on the workplace, the entrepreneur and small business. And I want to ask you a couple questions about that, specifically because, part of the lemonade stand too is successful. And how do we move from one place to a better place and a more successful place? And so as working women, I think what our workspace is, what our workflow, all of those really have to do with our efficiency, especially since we have 100 other things on our plate. So I guess my question is, you walk in, sit down with a client, walk me through a process a little bit of how you understand how that person, what their work habits are, and what you can do to then, match up a space, an organized space that is going to work most efficiently and complementary to their work styles.
Oh, absolutely. And that is one thing that in this new space, in this new venture that I'm going down, is that I saw a need for it, right? We had joked at the beginning that you have piles everywhere and how ineffective that is. Well, it's only ineffective just because we haven't fine-tuned it to be able to be accessible, right? You have maybe 6 piles in front of you. You know thereabouts what's in each of those 6 piles. The problem then becomes managing the system. So that is definitely one of the first things that I look for when assessing and sitting down with a client coming into their workspace is, number one, like the biggest rule is don't clean up, don't move anything, don't prepare, as you will, for my visit, because I can't get a true instinct or feel for how big the problem is, right? Don't box everything up and put it away so that I don't see you have hundreds of papers, because how can I get a home for them or a system for them if I don't know they exist? So that's on the precursor of me coming to a visit. But when I sit down and I assess and I intake with a client, it's the natural tendencies. We don't want to fight those. Those are what make you, you. And that is how you have functioned. And if we change that system drastically for one that would work for somebody like me, where I'm a minimalist, I need open space to function, an open space, an open mind. That's how I'm hardwired, right? I can have one task in front of me to stay focused, and that's the only way I can function. I can have something here to my left, and that's what I'm working on. Everything else needs to be out of my direct eye line, or it needs to be pretty for me to look at, for me to feel at peace and be able to focus. And that's really the intent of our workspace, right? Is to get stuff done. So you being a piler, for instance, I would recommend simple ways to make that pile method work for you. Something as simple as having plastic sheets where you can group projects or tasks and be able to see the label in that pile. Honey, you can go in 2 seconds right to exactly what you need. Have a tangible way to pull it out of the pile if it's something you need to reference or work on, and then you can just put it back. And then as well as develop a workflow for things that come into your desk. They can be piled here, but eventually it needs to be worked on and then housed as it goes through your flow of systems and as you work through your projects. So piling, stackers, filers, those are all very valid different types of work and kinetic type of manifestations, but there's a definite way to wrap around people and finding ways that work for them. And that's one of the first things that I do, is try to assess their natural habits and their natural surroundings.
What would you say on average, the length of time that people stick with the plan? In other words, do you find yourself going back and visiting to kind of make sure that they're on track? People typically fall off that beautiful organized train.
Well, so anybody that does it, if I do my job effectively and the client is honest with me, then, it's something that I teach you that you can carry it on a lifelong effort. You would simply reach out when your life pivots or transitions, right? So all of a sudden, say you're dealing with 2 kids at home, but then all of a sudden, 2 years down the line, you're stuck with 4. You're not really sure how to manage 4. Life gets away from you, right? And that's another transitional point in your life. So, but if you've managed to do things for 2 years, it just got away from you. And that is more often than not when professional organizers are called in, is when they have a system that used to work for them. They just failed to pivot and adapt that system as they went. So there isn't a typical amount of time where things fall fall off track. It's just the situation has changed. So if the situation, if somebody, there's basic fundamentals things that I can teach any client that will serve them for the rest of their life after our encounter. And so it just becomes of how different their life transitions and how much it pivots from where the original problem started. But the principles and the foundations, they will serve you for a very long time after you encounter with a professional organizer. Great question. Thank you for asking.
That's great. And again, as I said earlier, thank God for people like you. Because it is easy to let things get out of control. I remember when we were downsizing from our house. And it was a home I had moved into with my husband after we were married, kind of thing. He'd already been living there. When we went through the process of having to go through things to downsize, oh my word. I never have to go through that again. But yeah, some of the things that you were saying really resonated and brought that experience back to me, because it's like, you get emotionally attached to certain things. And, I always had that thought, like with a piece of clothing. Someday, I'm going to want that shirt for some reason.
That someday, yes.
But, so when we were trying to make this move, I had separate piles for different things. And my husband was, going through the trash can to throw out things. Anyway, bottom line is I had a bag of photographs and things that I wanted to give to my daughter. I didn't particularly need to hang on to them, but they were mementos more than anything. And guess what? We got in the wrong pile.
Oh no.
Went in the trash. And I was really sad about that. But the thing is, too, 3 years later, nobody's missed it. I guess maybe that's a little bit of the story, is that, yeah, photographs and mementos and things they're very valuable. But I think what's more valuable, what's in our hearts, what's in our memories. It was a learning experience for me to realize. Even for my daughter, she probably would have tucked it up into a shelf in the closet, and who knows if she would have looked at it. But I guess we can get along. If your house catches on fire or you're whatever, we can get along. Mm-hmm. So maybe in trying to keep our lives in order, we need to keep a little bit of that in mind, that we have to detach ourselves to a certain extent.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that serves people well, if you allow me to take just a long view on it for a second, it's no different than like life insurance, right? Life insurance is one of those terrible things to talk about, but it's a great plan. It's a great thing to have, right? It cares for your loved ones going on. Well, your memories and the things that you've accumulated, your life's journey is very unique and 100% you. And you want that to live on in your children. Like, it's set up by design that we're not going to be there for our children. That's just how it is. And, it's not promised to us. It's the natural order of things. They're taught of, the circle of life. That's where we're at. So if you have a plan for it, then it's not a big thing. It doesn't get away from you. If you start, and I would say probably, I don't have the statistical data to back it up, but I can find it. I would say on average, it starts around in your 50s, right? We start thinking about the remainder of our lives and our legacy, if you will. It starts right around halfway, around 50, right? When we want our children to think about our journeys and our lives and the things that mean a whole lot to us. If we come up with a plan to document those experiences and maintain it as part of our everyday life, like prayer, like diet, like exercise, if we plan for how to carry on in the future in a legacy, then it doesn't become out of control. And yeah, you're 100% right that we need to learn how to detach ourselves from those, oh, that's a quilt or a blanket, that my grandma made, and it's 80 years old, but I live in Arizona and it's not going to serve me in the very long run, right? But a photograph of that and a journal entry or a post on Facebook or a digital file in some aspect, it takes a very little amount of effort to maintain. And it takes a very little physical space, and it's something that can transition over time. So no different than the book that we're writing. It can live in 100 different formats, right? We have the ebook, we have the audio book, we have the tangible book, we have the download Kindle version. There's 100 different ways that tangible item can exist. So if we build it into the forefront of our minds and our systems, that we build that early on, it can carry on. So if you build something really early on with that intent in mind, yes, this is who I am as a person. This is my legacy. This is what I want people to remember and know and highlight me as for centuries and years and decades to come, then it's something that's not manageable, or something that isn't too much to manage, and something that doesn't get away from us. So thank you, because that's a very good point. It's got to be part of our everyday management. It's just no different than anything else in our lives. If we manage it a little bit every day, it doesn't become so overwhelming.
Well, it's those kind of things that are a little bit of a lemon that we need to make lemonade out of. So
yes,
happen. What do we do with it? So let's, on that note, let's go back to the book a little bit. A couple of questions that I had for you is, one is, you struck me as soon as you decided to come on board, is that you are in a pretty healthy and successful place. But did writing your story have some even greater positive outcomes in terms of your personal growth?
Oh, hugely. So about in February, March, part of my personal journey this year, last year actually, and this year has been in my Christian faith and developing what that means and what that looks like. And along that journey, I met with a biblical counselor to talk about things like that. I was very angry with God, very like, no, you're not up there. And if you are, you certainly forgot about me, because this has been my life. It's been terrible. Nobody had my back throughout any of this. I'm 100% alone. How dare you? I was very mad, very angry. But there was this yearning, this still sense of wanting to belong to something bigger and trying to make space and make a home for all the terrible things that had happened to me. And in one session in particular, I remember she said, Aislinn, write it all down. All the hardships, everything that has hurt you, every place you feel God has failed you, write it all down. And honey, that's exactly what this book was. I had put it off. I'd started a rough outline, right? And I got as far in traumatic events as 1983 when my younger brother was born. Well, that's when it all went to hell. My younger brother, right? No. But that's as far as I got. I was 2 years old. I was born in 81, so I was 2 years old. As far as I got on this project or task was 1983, right? And when your opportunity arose, I was like, okay, fine. I can take a hint. I've got it. And honestly, I couldn't write. It was so personal. I couldn't write the story 100% on my own. I was like, I turned to my friend Kayla, who turned me onto your project because she knew what I was doing and why. And I said, honey, I need, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I signed on to do this. I agreed to do this. I believe in this project. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I need help. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to mention all the terrible things? Somebody's going to think I'm out of my mind. And she said, Aislinn, I got you. And when I think about God, I think about Kayla. She is my messenger from him. Whatever she says, honey, it rings true. You know, we get these little feelings about people, right? We meet them, we kind of greet them, and slowly, if it's meant to be, we kind of allow them into our space and into our lives and really get to see the authentic us. And honey, she has saw straight through my soul since day one. We met at a networking event, and it was just the most random thing. But consistently now, for the better part of 2 years, she has been just that person that's got me. And she sees through my soul, and she knows all my terrible truths, and she still loves me. She still looks me in the face, and she just has me. And she's like, I got this. So we set up a few sessions where she would record and kind of take notes. And then she shaped it into the beautiful story that it become. And I've read my story now about a dozen times, to the point where, like, okay, I'm so sick of myself. Like, this has got to live on to inspire somebody else, because I'm sick of reliving it. And it doesn't hurt anymore. Now I don't need to go to those dark places, because it doesn't hurt anymore. So I can 100% attest to how much just hearing these stories and hearing them, chapter after chapter, how much we will uplift people with these stories, and how much we'll pull them in and really truly motivate them to start making the first steps to change their lives and change their views and their hearts and souls forever. But so in doing so, and handing my story unapologetically over to somebody else and allowing her to shape it, I was able to read it and say, okay, he was there, because this could have been so much worse. Or, yeah, that person really did help me, and they didn't have to. And just seeing my heroes in my story rather than the villains has healed me like you would not believe. I am 100 pounds of hate, anger, sorrow, and just dread. I am 100 pounds lighter of all of that just by sharing my story. And even if nobody else ever reads it, I am healed just have gone through the process. So, yes, that's where I'm at with that. I'm sorry, I got a little emotional there.
Well, I think you just really reinforced the fact that not only with you, but with all of the co-authors, that you really put your raw and vulnerable self out there. And that's a hard thing to do. That's a courageous thing to do. A lot of people will say, write your story down, just write it down. But, to write it down and share it,
whole nother ballgame.
not sugar-coated,
Which is very factual.
no polish on it. It's just the real, raw, gritty story. And each and every one of you have put yourself out in that kind of scary situation. But if that's been able to help you grow, and I'm just proud to be a part of that process, and excited to be on that journey. And can you imagine the journey that everyone else who reads this is going to be on, as they realize, I can do it too.
Yes, and it's those 3 words, honey. I can do it too. Well, 4. I can do it, and I can do it too. Those 4 words that that whole tribe. And that's really been the conversation, that tribe and community. One can't change much, but together in voices, and we can change the people slacking. We get to make people are awesome. Oh my gosh, I want to open my front door to people like it used to be. We all get nostalgic of the 60s, 70s, when it was you knew your neighbor, and you can, now somebody knocks at your front door. Oh my God, who is that? It's the police. What's wrong? We go to all these terrible thoughts because we're so terrified to let the world in. But the world doesn't have to be that scary, and we can be one community again, and we can find our tribes and our villages, and feel connected. And I like to use the term "get got," because there's a whole other level to connecting and being a human when you've gotten got. When you let people truly see who you are, no guard, no apologies, and to be loved and embraced anyway. It's to get got is where it's at, and it's amazing.
Yep. So I guess the moral of the story is there's no perfect people. We're just all imperfect specimens that doing the best that we can. And, everybody gets a little bit different circumstances in their life, some easier and some tougher than others. But I know that from what I have been experiencing with everyone is that if you have that vision and, you draw up that courage to change your situation, it can be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're an outstanding example of that. And I am so happy to have you as one of our co-authors, and very excited to see you at your launch party coming up soon. And we'll just keep everybody in touch as the story as the launch process gets closer and closer. We're going to have to close up here, but I do want you to give whatever contact information out that you would like to share. If somebody's sitting in a pile of clutter that's, 8 feet high and they can find the phone or whatever, how can they get a hold of you?
I'm fairly accessible. I'm in my community all the time. I am on Facebook. You can like my page, Ask Azzy. That's ASKAISI, the same across Twitter. I'm on Instagram with the underscore in between. Somebody took Ask Azzy, but I'm on there with the underscore in between the Ask and the Azzy. And I'll even give my phone number, 623-404-0900. I respond faster to text in a world where we move 1,000 miles a minute, but I am happy to help anybody through their journey, and if they want to know more about what I've been through, I'm pretty open in sharing that, because I know how it feels, how uplifting it feels, and I feel like I am a great listener and a great sounding board to help people get to that next point in their lives, and that's what has really called me to action, has really called me to serve, is helping people through transitions and helping people realize the value of people and that heart. We need that back, and not just America, of course, but all over the world. But yeah, they can reach me at any of those platforms, and I am happy to help where I can.
Perfect. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Enjoyed talking with you as always. And with that, say goodbye to our listeners and our audience, and just say thank you. We appreciate you spending time with us. And I'm Michelle Faust with Lemonade Legend, creating lemonade stories for people out there, because everybody has a story. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Michelle. Thank you so much.
I gotta cut off the recording. Okay.